Namaste and loving greetings, everyone. Today we have an exciting program for you that will cover quantum gazing in a moment, then a short 10-minute meditation and our short workshop featuring successful relationships. We'll discuss the necessary elements and tips that we use to strengthen our various relationships. Loving greetings, everyone. Today we have an exciting program for you that will cover quantum gazing in a moment. Then a short 10-minute meditation and our short also featuring successful relationships. It looks like we have feedback. Elements and tips that we use to strengthen our various relationships. Let's back up a bit. And now we're going to back up a bit because we had some technical problems there. An echo. All right, then we're going to have a 10-minute meditation and a short workshop featuring successful relationships. We'll discuss, as we said, the necessary elements and tips that we use to strengthen our various relationships. Also, we'll present a tip for getting an energy boost when you're outdoors in nature. Further, we'll give an overview of the 9 esoteric ways of finding answers to questions, including how to create an Irish crystal ball. We also have several teaching stories and examples to share. You'll want to take notes, so we have our jot down notes and disclaimer. We do not diagnose, prescribe, or cure, and we're not medical doctors. Viewers are encouraged to seek help from their health caregivers. This educational, inspirational program is protected under free speech that's guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution and is never meant to harm or to coerce anyone in any way, but only to empower viewers. Now, let's begin with a prayer. Beloved Lord, you're our Father and Mother, and we thank you for your continual help and grace. We ask that you empower, help, and heal all those watching today. Please increase our love, strength, energy, and courage to bring forth the new golden age of peace and plenty by being examples of purity, love, peace, truth, righteousness, and nonviolence. Please send us people whom we can easily help and comfort, and give us the right words and gestures to console and encourage them. We love, love, love you, dearest Lord, and we thank you for giving us lives of meaning and purpose, helping us to love other people as you continue to love each one of us. Amen. Let's start with Jim's induction to quantum gazing, and that will happen now.
So if you would all uncross your legs, put your feet flat on the floor. That's if you're sitting up like you're in a chair or something like that. And if you're sitting on the floor, you can remain with your legs crossed. It's just fine. And then let's all place our hands face up in a receptive position and place them in our laps or down on our thighs or somewhere like that, so that we can receive energy through our hands in that way. And now let's all get clearly into our minds 3 or 4 wishes or prayers or intentions that we have to improve our lives or to improve the lives of those who are our loved ones. They may be our friends, they may be our relatives, they may be our co-workers. Any beloved. Those wishes or prayers or intentions can have to do with our selfless service activities, with our leadership roles, with our health, our bodies, our emotions, our relationships with anyone in our lives, our spiritual lives, and our life purpose. They can have to do with absolutely anything at all. So let's just take a few moments and get them very, very clearly in our minds.
And both of us are going to be doing gazing today.
Now, when you're gazing, as most of you already know by now, you just look at us with a soft, almost unfocused gaze or look. There doesn't need to be any intensity whatsoever. There's no need to try to transfer energy back and forth or anything like that. Just a soft look in our direction. And at the same time as you're gazing, allow your mind to become empty. Allow all of your thinking to cease. Let all of your thoughts just drop away. Now, it's not the end of the world if you notice that you're thinking sometime while gazing is going on. Just notice that and go back to empty mind. It could even happen more than once, but just repeatedly go back to empty mind. Now, we always begin in preparation with a breathing activity in which we imagine breathing our consciousness down into our spiritual heart center, right in the center of our chest. And we notice how it feels at the end of our out breath when our consciousness gets into our spiritual heart center. That's the point at which we are connecting with all that is. And sometimes the people who are nearest to us, closest to us, dearest to us, will have a physical response when we reach that point. You can do this at any time in your life, any day, any hour, any minute. You can just repeat what we're doing now. So let's all breathe in deeply, raise your shoulders up towards your ears. Now, big breath out as you imagine your consciousness dropping down into your spiritual heart center. And you notice that physical feeling as your consciousness gets to your heart. Let's do that once more. Breathe in. Breathe your consciousness down into your heart center. One more time. Breathe in deeply, shoulders up towards your ears. Big breath out. Imagine your consciousness dropping down into your heart center. Notice that feeling at the end of your out breath. Now imagine your consciousness expanding out into the universe and connecting with your idea of the quantum field of love. And enjoy that wonderful, warm feeling of the quantum field of love, and you being a part of it, and it being a part of you. And now you can come back to the room. Many of you have photos. Some of you have them laid out on the floor in front of you. Some of you may have them on poster boards or just individually. Now would be the time, if you need to hold them up, to put them up. And we'll begin gazing right now. And now we'll show the Masters of Light slideshow, and following that, we'll meditate. You can. Well, we hope you enjoyed getting to know the masters some more, and they've been with you all day today, and they may have even been with you before that as you were thinking about joining us for this live streaming, or as you were planning to rewatch the recorded version. They've told Connie that they would like to continue working on all of us for about another 10 minutes, and that the best thing would be for us to be in a meditative state. If you're not a meditator, that's just fine. If you would just close your eyes and enjoy the silence, that will work perfectly. So we'll begin with 3 ohms, and when we return, we'll do 3 shanties. So let's begin right now. Om. 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 Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Welcome back. Now we're going to introduce a wealth of new ideas and tips on 3 broad topics. First, 9 esoteric ways to find answers to questions. And secondly, how to get an energy boost when you're outside in nature. And then finally, how to have successful relationships and the tips that we use to do so. Now, the first topic is 9 esoteric ways to find answers, and esoteric means alternative or unusual or unconventional. Historically, as you know, people have used some or all of the following 9 methods of getting answers to various questions, and you might already use some of them yourselves. One that's not mentioned is stirring in the tea leaves at the bottom of your teacup. There's nothing magical about tea leaves or stones or sticks or anything that you use to focus the mind. All of these processes simply calm the mind so that the wisdom of your subconscious can float to the surface and provide some answers that you already know. Now, number 1, prayers and meditation. This is my favorite one. And normally I can, thankfully, because God helps me so much, I can sit down in a chair, ask a question, and say, "Oh, please, I need such and such," and then shortly an answer will come. Now, we can use a prayer request jar or box on your altar, and for example, like this little jar, which was given by a dear friend in Malaysia, and you can put little strips of paper in it like, "Dear Lord, please heal Ronnie's knees," or "Please heal John's back," or "Please heal Jim's tooth," or something like that. Then you put those requests in the box and don't check it for a month. Just let it go. And then later on, you look in there and you realize, oh, everything has been healed and cleared and balanced. Thank you, Lord. The second is water scrying or scrying. And you use a wide bowl of clear water as a focus to calm the mind and to allow probable future events or conditions to emerge in the mind's eye. You can simply let images appear or ask a number of specific questions and wait patiently with calm, measured breath. Now, the third is called the Irish crystal ball. And what it is, you fill a glass tumbler, drinking glass, about 3/4 full of water, and you hold the glass up against an uncluttered background, such as a white wall, a window, or some light curtains. And then you ask a specific question or merely just calm the mind, letting your thoughts go, and notice the images that arise, and you'll get a result. You can ask yes-no questions or open-ended questions. Now then, we learned about the crystal ball from our late chiropractor, Dr. Barry Melville, who was using it one day as we came into his office for our monthly appointments. And he told us that his favorite intuitive was Mary Malone from Ireland. "Oh, Mary Malone, I love Mary Malone," he would say. And of course, he spoke regular standard American English, but he just loved to copy her accent. So she showed him how to use a drinking glass with water to get answers. Now, he was a good-looking bachelor who wanted to find a romantic partner, so he kept calling Mary Malone long distance in Ireland or when she went to California to ask if she saw anyone in his future. And she kept saying, "No, Betty, I don't see anyone coming for you. Why don't you create your own Irish crystal ball and notice if you see anyone coming for you? Since I've been looking and I don't see a soul, Betty." Well, as we've said before, within a year, Barry suddenly expired of congestive heart failure.
He died.
Now, he died in his office, with congestive heart failure, and afterwards it became plain to his friends and Mary Malone why nobody saw anyone coming for him, because he wasn't going to be on this plane much longer. Now, if you don't see anything or anyone in your Irish crystal ball or your water scrying bowl, it doesn't mean that you won't be here much longer necessarily. It just means you need to practice more. All right, so we're going to take down the sign of the Irish crystal ball, and now we're back to number 4. Now, when you throw the chits, for example, this means using 3 or 2 small strips of paper and writing yes or no or maybe on them, or just using 2. Now, actually, Jim is letting me know that we could start with an easy, let's go back to the Irish crystal ball. Okay, number 3. All right, so what you can do is you can start out when you're using any of these devices with an easy question. Like, for example, Jim just lost a tooth when he was eating a piece of pizza, and he might want to know, since he has to go to a dental surgeon, will I be able to get a dental appointment in the next month? And then maybe he would see himself sitting in a dental chair with a calendar on the wall behind that shows the month that he would be in the dental office. Or you might ask, will I be offered one or more of the jobs for which I've applied? And you might see or hear, yes, but you need to strongly and tactfully negotiate the salary, the benefits, and the hours. Be firm, but polite and tactful. So the next process, number 4, is called throwing the chits. Now this means you use, as I said, 3 strips of paper, but I would suggest yes or no, just 2, rather than maybe or possibly. That doesn't tell you anything. Now then, you fold up these little pieces of paper, and then you shake them in your hands, and then you just toss them out on a table and see which one you feel like picking. You open it up, and that's your answer. Yes, and so you have yes written on one chit and no on the other. As we said, you shake them up in your hands, throw them on the table. You don't know because they're wadded up, which is yes or no. But then the flaw is that most people keep throwing them until they get the answer they want, which invalidates the entire process. So I don't like that very well. It's quite popular, but it just makes everybody crazy. It's sort of like when I asked Jim a question that I already asked him last week, such as, Jim, are you open to our taking a short vacation to a national park in our area that's 2 hours away by car? He said, no, not really. Now it's a week later. It's a different time. It's a different now moment. And I asked him again. He said, you already asked me that last week. Why are you asking me again? And I replied, because it's a new week. Your schedule is much lighter now. And besides, although I respected your answer, I was sort of hoping you'd change your mind later, as you normally do after you think about it for a while. But if you simply don't ever want to go, that's fine with me. As you know, I'm not going to beg you or press you or whine or complain. We never do that with each other, but I just thought I'd check. All right, next, number 5. You can consult a coach, a trusted intuitive counselor, or a trusted friend for clarification, and perhaps you can discover that you've been asking the wrong questions, or that your intuition knew all along what the probable outcome might be, but maybe you didn't want to face it. All right, the next is casting the runes, R-U-N-E-S, or the stones. These stones or tiles come in a box with instructions, and they're placed on a table. Current ones are usually copies of ancient ones found in archaeological sites, for example, in the British Isles or in the Middle East or somewhere else. Now then, 7 is the I Ching, the ancient Chinese method of divination, which has an accompanying book of translations regarding the symbol that comes up for the outlook of a certain plan or project. Most spiritual seekers start out with the I Ching, throwing the chits, or using tarot cards to focus the mind until eventually they become so proficient at meditation they can sit down, close their eyes, ask their Atma or Holy Spirit for an answer, and after some time an answer appears. 8. Cloud gazing. You can focus on clouds from your window, if it's not overcast, of course, or from a lawn chair or a picnic blanket outdoors in nature. And again, the whole purpose is to relax the mind, clear all the thoughts, and let any images appear before your mind's eye in response to your question or a particular topic. A variation of this is the act of gazing at a forest off of your deck, or at a lake, or at a river. Fishermen tell me that for them, fishing is just as much a process of de-stressing and getting out of the house and relaxing the mind as it is searching for fish, which most of them toss back immediately. In a way, you could say that fishing is a surreptitious meditation for those who don't yet know how to meditate, but it works for them to feel calm, relaxed, and to come back home refreshed. Number 9, consulting a professional Jyotish astrologer, since that ancient Indian system is supposedly more accurate than the much younger Western system of astrology. Now remember that the masters have said that astrology only affects 20% of our outcomes, and that inauspicious periods can be overcome through prayer, through so-called cures or rituals, and Indians do a lot of that, and also decrees, which Westerners do, plus positive intentions. Remember, too, that we're divine beings. We're co-creators with God, and we all have a variety of obstacles and challenges in life, which we created or set up for ourselves before we were born, before this place started, in order to develop our spiritual muscles, our discernment, our fortitude, and other virtues. We're living in a hologram. All right. Now, here is the chart for the 9 esoteric or unconventional ways to find answers to your questions. This is a review. So first we tell you what we're going to do, and then we do it, and then we tell you we did it. Prayer and meditation, using prayer requests box or jar, water skiing or scrying, Irish crystal ball, throwing the chits, seeking a coach, psychic medium, or a trusted friend, casting the runes or stones, the I Ching, cloud gazing, forest gazing, lake gazing, or seeing a Jyotish astrologer. Now then, how to get an energy boost when you're outdoors. Inhale the beauty of nature. This is a very simple process that you can make a habit of. Each time you're in a park, a forest, a garden, near the ocean, a lake, a meadow, or the mountains. Just calm and clear your mind, and then inhale the view. Imagine that the energy and the beauty of the scene is entering and energizing your body. Also, the Ascended Masters tell us that it's a good habit to notice your inhalations and exhalations, because they can tell us whether we're joyful and ebullient, or rather sad or even depressed. Many people have been so shut down from childhoods of abuse, or from being in perpetual fear and fright, or from simply being out of touch with their breath, with their feelings, with who they are, that they simply don't know if they're happy or sad. And sometimes they put on a cheerful, happy face, and they're abysmally depressed and don't know it. So here is a clue. If your exhalations are longer than your inhalations, and if you find yourself sighing, then you could be sad or depressed and you don't know it. Now, what your in-breath and out-breath can tell you, according to the Ascended Masters, is If you keep inhaling long breaths when you're outside in the beauty of nature, and you inhale lots of them, and you just can't get enough good, full breaths, and you feel full of light, you're no doubt receiving the joyful, energetic replenishment that nature offers. You can train yourself to take a big breath several times a day, especially when you feel stuck in your head or out of sorts, unhappy, triggered by other people, or you have low energy. Now, sometimes when Jim and I are in nature, which is quite often, I'll be drinking in the natural scene and I'll say, "Oh, Jim, oh, 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 I'm so happy I can hardly stand it. I'm overflowing with happiness. Thank you for coming here. Oh, I'm just so pleased to be here. We're so lucky. God is so gracious. He's created beauty all around us. Oh, I'm just so happy." So that happens quite a few times a week. All right. So it's vital to get outside each day. We need to get enough vitamin D from sunshine. Now, as you may know, vitamin D controls over 2,000 bodily functions, and according to scientists, it's especially beneficial for your hair, your skin, your eyes, bones, and teeth in particular, and immune support. Now, we've given you 12 new tips that can greatly improve your life so far. The secret is in doing them, not just hearing about them, though. Our final topic is relationships and how to improve them. Now, we know that if each of you were to make a video like this, you would have your own ideas, your own skill sets, your own advice, your own stories about things that you've learned and that work for you. So this is just what we use. You just take the best and leave the rest. Now, regarding relationships, we're not only referring to romantic relationships, by the way, but to all those people that are in your life, such as neighbors, household members, and extended family members, roommates, office mates, business partners, colleagues, and close friends. It's good to remember that all relationships are karmic, meaning there's something to be balanced or worked out with each interaction, where we have a choice to see and to serve the divine and that person. There may be long-term ancient grudges and resentments between people that cause enmity and distress, even now. You know, I want to tell you a funny story I hadn't intended to tell, but several years ago we were invited to give a talk and a workshop in California. And a banquet luncheon was prepared for us by our host. It was like a box luncheon. And we were thrilled to meet so many new people. And one person, whom I never met before, saw me as I came in the door and said, "Connie Shaw, there you are. There you are. I'm so-and-so. I'm still angry with you from our last lifetime, when you left the family and we all lived in England and you sold all of the property and all of your jewelry and possessions and you bought a boat ticket and you sailed away to live in India with Shirdi Sai Baba. And as my sister, I never saw you again. We didn't know how you were, or the family didn't know if you were okay, and you became a renunciate, and I'm still mad at you." And I was shocked. I said, "Really? You mean you've been holding on to that resentment for over 100 years? And she kind of backed up and said, "Oh." I said, "Well, you know, you could let it go if you want. I'd love to get to know you and be your friend. You say we were sisters then? I hope you don't torture yourself anymore by holding on to that. But you can if you want." So, one of my favorite quotations is, "It's never too late to have a happy childhood." That means in this lifetime or another lifetime, you can remember the finest moments that you've had with someone else and forget the rest. Holding on to sadness and resentment only hurts you. And the second quote is from A Course in Miracles, which says, There is no holier spot on earth than the place where an ancient hatred has become a present love. And that's especially poignant when one goes to old battlefields or to countries where there have been many wars and there's a lot of battle energy. So there are things a person can do to pray and meditate and cleanse the land so that henceforward everyone can enjoy new peace and love and freshness in that environment. Now, when you let go of grievances and resentments, it doesn't mean that you deny your past pain or abuse. It doesn't mean that you condone any horrible, unimaginable thing somebody did to you or to someone else. It just means that essentially you're realizing that every saint has a past. We've all made a lot of mistakes and we've done things we regret. And every sinner has a future. And you too have made plenty of mistakes. Forgive yourself. Let go any stories about you or anybody else. It means that you're just no longer willing to torture yourself by decorating the walls of your mind with ugly pictures and memories. You prefer beauty and bliss, and you might wish to hang gorgeous, uplifting pictures and memories on the walls of your mind that give you strength, happiness, and gratitude. Everyone has lots of karma from having made poor choices in the past. The good news is that we can choose for God and choose for good each moment and reap the blessings therein, or not. Now, here are the vital qualities and skill sets that strengthen relationships. Here they are. In addition to reviewing things that have helped us, we also interviewed a number of people to get their input as well. Now, we would like to say, actually, let's just take that list down so it's not distracting. Thank you. We would like to say that this is the second marriage for each of us. We are also on very good terms with Jim's first wife, and we were on very good terms with my late first husband, and before he died of cancer many years ago, after we divorced, and his wife. So Jim and I met decades ago at a Methodist church, and we crossed paths in a book study group in that church. We had a few friends in common. We'd known each other for a year before we got married at an outdoor wedding ceremony, which we designed in India, and then later we got married again by our Methodist minister friend, Mary Ann, in the living room of our new house in order to make the marriage legal in the U.S. We've never had, thankfully, such a major argument or disagreement that one of us had to leave for the night or go to a hotel or stay with a friend or a family member. We've had a few very loud discussions and disagreements, but we've always talked them through and worked things out. We've never ever called each other names, not even once, or put each other down, or used swear words with each other. As far as we know, this is also true of our children and grandchildren. But even if it isn't, we love them anyway. So we don't swear or demean other people. And this leads to the first skill set for strong relationships: mutual respect and appreciation for each other. If you're wishing to find a friend or have a deeper relationship with somebody that's not your mate, you'll have to accurately estimate the level of their spiritual maturity. A person cannot act above their level of their spiritual understanding. They can't, they won't, so you'll just be causing suffering for both of you if you expect or demand that they change to be the way that you would like them to be. You know, a lot of women fall in love with a person's potential, and that relationship usually doesn't last. It means, oh, here's a good project for me to work on, I'm a very powerful soul, and I'll turn him into exactly the person I want him to be. That doesn't work. The second is loyalty or high fidelity, and character or integrity. This means keeping your business with each other and your conversations confidential and not cheating on your partner or betraying them in any way, or using your life and your discussions as conversational or social currency with your friends, unless there is a specific reason and you're demonstrating a point or a skill or an idea that fits in with the conversation you're having with that person. Number 3, willingness to change and to compromise continually, using the give and take necessary for continued goodwill. Now, we've all seen relationships where one or the other person has been verbally beaten into submission and just goes along to get along rather than bringing their own ideas, thoughts, and proposals to the table. We like to think that everybody in any relationship needs to bring something to the picnic of life rather than just taking, and expecting the other person to make them happy. Here's the secret. Nobody can make you happy. That's your job. That's my job. It's everybody's job. Now, this is a story that I have Jim's permission to tell, and I'm telling it because it was our first major disagreement the first year we were together, and we were both so shocked that it happened. We realized we were going to have to take some communication workshops because we were not going to be able to carry on the same way we always had. Both of us had been used to being in charge of most things that we were involved in. And we both had very strong ideas, and we both thought our ideas were the best. So, boom, we were clashing about a number of things. It was so shocking. So, I'd like to tell you the story. Is it okay if I tell this story, Jim, about the first time you ever cried?
Just mention that I'm an engineer.
What?
Mention that I'm an engineer later on.
He says, yes, as long as I mention that he's an engineer, and that's why it happened. Now then, he didn't cry when his parents died, or my parents died, or when I was hospitaled 8 times, or I was in a number of car wrecks being rear-ended at stoplights, minding my own business, or we had to live apart for 6 months due to his overseas work. He did cry, however. Neither of us is really a crying type of person, except for joy. But he did cry, however, when we were in our house and we had gone to the plant store, the garden store, the nursery, and bought 6 bushes to plant in the backyard because there were no plants in the backyard. So we unloaded 6 short Tammy Fitzers from the plant nursery out of the car and put them in the yard to discuss how we should space them, where to dig the holes, and how deep we should plant them. And both of us were working on this together. So Jim said, well, you know, I'm an engineer, and engineers know the right way to do things. Engineers use logic and reasoning, and we should plant them all in a straight row near the fence. That's how engineers do things. And I have my tape measure, and we're going to plant them exactly the same number of feet apart. And logic is always the best approach, you know. Well, I knew from experience that shrubs and trees and flowers are sentient, meaning they know things, they feel things, they can communicate with each other and animals and people. And they have desires and knowledge about what's beneficial for them. Even though they don't have a nervous system, plants feel and communicate. They have very definite ideas about how they should be treated. Well, Jim got very upset at this idea. It's ridiculous to think that plants can communicate. Who ever heard of that idea? I told you, I'm an engineer, and we know how to do things. So just step back and be reasonable and do it my way. Well, I said, excuse me. I think it's always best to involve other creatures and other people and their opinions whenever you're doing anything with other people or animals or anyone. Otherwise, we would just be tyrants, and the other people could be hurt or angry, or they might have even better ideas than we have. So I am for always getting everybody's ideas out on the table and talking about it and thinking about it and listening inside to what seems to be the right direction. Well, cooperating with nature and people is part of creating harmony and peace and balance in the world, I said. Well, he got very angry. No, no, no. He just wanted to get the plants in the ground and forget about it. I said, no, this is disturbing the peace and harmony of the backyard. We have to do this in an open, loving way. And then he just said, no, you don't understand. Engineers know what's best. So he went over to the deck staircase. He sat down with a big thud and he started crying. And I thought, he's crying because I won't do it his way? Oh my goodness, this is going to be a much more challenging relationship than I'd anticipated. And it was the only time in our lives, in decades, that I ever saw him cry, and it was out of frustration. I wouldn't do it his way. Well, we developed other negotiation skills. They say that your relationship is the longest running negotiation that you'll ever have in your life, and I think that's true. So he just started shouting as the next mode, which was a little disturbing to me. So finally, we learned through a lot of study and research and attending classes and learning to model genius and great communicators that we observed. And so now we negotiate everything and we keep our thoughts and feelings open and clear. We negotiate many things every single day. Neither one of us has to have our way. We give each other a lot of respect and a lot of space. So we don't argue anymore. But if I interrupt him, which is still a very bad habit I have with him and others, he says, interruption. And I say, oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't mean to cut you out or speak over you. And if he starts shouting, which is seldom, I say TOV, TOV, which means tone of voice. You're shouting. So, number 4, good communication skills are essential. One of the most valuable investments you can ever make would be to take either an online or in-person class on how to learn new skill sets for interactive communications with others. For example, you can learn to do the Byron Katie work about self-inquiry and examination of thoughts, as well as discovering your own projections. Projection means that we accuse other people of things that we ourselves are unconsciously doing, don't know, and can't yet acknowledge or face or change in ourselves. An example would be when we think another person is selfish, when we're actually selfish in different ways. Everybody can relate to this, I think, but we're unaware of those ways. Another process that works very well for couples or managers or professionals is the study in a group of A Course in Miracles by people who really walk their talk. Now further, any of the 12-step recovery groups can be excellent for learning to make amends to our higher power or God and to ourselves for making bad choices or for embracing addictions to alcohol or to smoking or drugs or porn or food or cyber addictions or rescuing other people, which is called codependence, or being a compulsive busybody in other people's business instead of reviewing and changing our own character defects. Now, the group ACOA, or Adult Children of Alcoholics, is also helpful for those people whose parents abused, neglected, or abandoned them, or who have issues with rebelliousness, or with authority figures in general, which is a masking of rebellion against God and refusing to hear and do His will for us. Now, number 5 is compatible levels of awareness, values, and lifestyle. If one person, for example, let's say in a couple, needs a lot of distractions, such as parties, watching sports games, or continual noisy stimulus, and the other person likes quiet time, reading, meditation, or being in nature, you can be sure a lot of clashing is going to result unless both people are strong enough, trustworthy, and confident enough to have lots of individual friends and interests. If they can give each other the space they both need to feel balanced and happy, they can be successful together. But it doesn't work to try to change other people or to control, manipulate, nag, or harass to get your way. Frankly, I would rather be happy than right. Now, number 6 is to resolve issues in the moment. Don't repress issues or resentments. Don't hold grudges or grievances, or you're going to sour the relationship and build mountains out of molehills of misunderstanding. Always be the first to apologize, even if you didn't start the tiff or the clash. Yes, again, I'd rather be happy than right.
Takes courage.
It takes a lot of courage, and it takes practice. Number 7, a sense of humor helps break tensions. Also, remember that all relationships are karmic, as we said, whether they're lifelong ones with families, lovers, colleagues, friends, or a 2-hour conversation with someone on an airplane. Seeing the amusing aspects of your own foibles and the funny aspects of life as a priceless element that lifts spirits and restores perspective to what's important and what is not. Most things are not important. You may have heard that very old saying, do not sweat the small stuff. Practically everything is the small stuff. Number 8, meditate together daily. This habit, practice on awakening each day at the end of the day as well, twice a day at least, will keep you in sync, sharpen your discernment, and deepen your intuition. It can help you see through fakery, lies, and deception. It will also carry you over the hills of loss and grief, family and societal chaos, and inner turmoil. There are many free meditation courses online and low-cost ones in most communities. 9, absolutely no distractions when you're together. Being together means no TV. That's not being together with somebody when you're both being mesmerized side by side with some idea or programming or something that's happening that doesn't involve the two of you. It's just you happen to be in the same room at the same time, not paying attention to each other. So no devices, no phones, no video games, no multitasking. We never bring devices or phones to the dinner table. That's just us. Now I'd like to tell you a story that really shocked us. Once when we went to the Olive Garden restaurant in Colorado. The backstory is that Jim and I were having a typical dinner out, and we were discussing about a dozen different topics. Some of them touched on current events, economics, spirituality, politics, funny jokes we'd heard. We talked about how our adult children were doing and their families, books we were reading, new people we'd met, how a book chapter was coming along that I was writing, how Jim's French horn practice piece was coming for his concert band performance, various emails we'd received, funny bumper stickers we'd seen, and articles and essays we'd read. So we always have a lot to talk about with each other. Shortly after we'd been seated in our booth, I noticed across the aisle a very well-dressed, well-to-do single mother and her 10-year-old son right across from us. Now, since Jim and I were intensely involved in our multi-subject conversation, It took me a few minutes to realize that this woman and her son were leaning slightly in our direction, and they were eavesdropping on our conversation. I mean, listening to every single word. That often happens. We'll go out to dinner, everything will stop in the restaurant, and everybody's eavesdropping on us. I don't know why that is. So after the first 10 minutes, the little boy went over to his mother and whispered something into her ear. Then they both smiled, and he went back to his seat opposite her in the booth. 5 minutes later, he went back to her side of the table and whispered a question into her ear, seemingly about something we said that he hadn't understood. She whispered the answer in his ear, and he nodded, and then went back to his seat. Then he got an idea, got very excited, ran over to her, and excitedly whispered something to her, and she laughed and said, "Yes, good." Then they left in a rather conspiratorial mood, remember that? And they were chuckling and winking at each other as they smiled and nodded to us, saying, "Have a nice evening." So we wished them the same. And about 5 minutes later, the waiter came, also smiling very conspiratorially, and he arrived to say that the mother and son who had just left had written a note to us, and they asked him to give it to us and for him to stand right there while we read it aloud. It said, "Dear friends, my son Tommy and I were so impressed and inspired at how much you two love each other, which is rare these days. We could tell that because you showed respect for each other by not having any phones or devices on the table, and by the way you converse politely with each other, and by the way you respect each other in several ways. We enjoyed hearing your conversations." See, they were listening. "And the fact that you laugh a lot, and you look lovingly at each other often." Remember that? "You didn't interrupt each other, and we were sincerely interested. Both of you were interested in what the other one had to say. I told my son Tommy that this is what true love and stimulating companionship look like, and that this kind of relationship is one of two spouses being best friends, and it can last for decades through all the ups and downs of life. Thank you both for making our day. We've already paid for your dinner and the tip and wish you every happiness in life. But it looks like you already have that. Sincerely, Karen and Tommy Green." Well, the waiter smiled, and we thanked him and tipped him again, and we sat there in shocked silence. We were just being our everyday normal selves, but that was apparently unusual enough that a stranger and her son treated us to dinner and a very sweet and encouraging note. Now then, the moral of the story, actually there are two, is that you never know when you're either positively or adversely affecting someone who's observing you by your words or your behavior to another person. We couldn't believe that we'd done anything even slightly meritorious, but we took her meal payment and kind note as a heavenly attaboy or encouragement from God. Now, I would like to say, that was Karen's story about us. She observed us for 1 hour, and her story must be that true love has to do with not interrupting, with no phones at the table, and with people having a lot to discuss, and so on. Now, if she were to observe us now, she would see us sitting there, eating in silence like two Buddhist monks, and she might think, well, they are just so bored with each other. They aren't even talking about anything. Well, we're different this year than we were last year. This year, we're just focusing on God within. We're savoring the food. We're in a meditative state, and we speak much less than we did last year. We just are more, I don't know, what would you say? More monkish or more renounced or quiet or peaceful something. We're changing all the time. So, as Byron Katie, the famous author, says, I can't know you. You can't know me. No two humans can ever really know each other. They only know their stories about each other, and their stories are always wrong. All right. The last set of skills for today is called skills for soothing. Like when a baby is fussy and you pat the baby and the baby feels soothed and comfortable and relaxed and falls asleep. Now, we're not trying to soothe other people to make them fall asleep, but there are 6 of these skills for soothing. One, as you can see, is heart resonance. Let me meditate on that idea and see if I resonate with it in my heart. Now, like for example, if somebody invited us to a birthday shower, and we like to say we're not here on earth to go to birthday parties and baby showers because every moment is precious and we are here to awaken and to ascend. So, no thank you, but thank you for inviting us. So I asked Jim, well, they really want us to go to that baby shower. You think about it. So Jim said, you know, I'm sorry, sweetheart, but I'm just not resonating with going to maybe Mary's baby shower. And I said, if you don't feel it, you don't feel it. I'll convey your love to everyone. I'm going to go and make an appearance. But as you know, I generally don't socialize, go to parties and things like that. Number 2, here's the skill. This is when somebody says something that you know could easily turn into an argument. It could have to do with politics or religion or any of the taboo subjects. It doesn't mean that you think the other person is right, but you'd rather be happy than right. So they say something and you think they're trying to set you up for an argument, which some people do, and you say, oh, you may be right. They could be wrong, doesn't matter. Who's to say who's right or wrong, right?
Or time will tell.
Yes, as Jim says, time will tell. Time will tell about most things. Okay, and number 3, how can I best help you now? Now, when someone is sad, angry, or upset, they know generally what they need. They may not know they're sad, angry, or upset. For example, and early in our marriage, and I told Jim I was going to tell this, and he could tell plenty of stories on me too. But if he were upset, he would bang all the kitchen cabinet doors and open the drawers and not close them and rattle the cutlery in the cutlery tray. And I would say, oh, Jim, oh, I'm sorry you're so upset. What's the matter? He would say, I'm not upset. I'm perfectly calm. I'm perfectly calm and happy. And finally, I learned not to do that because it triggered him to yell even louder. So finally, I learned to say, Jim, what could I do that would best help you right now? And then he learned to say, just don't talk to me. Leave me alone for 3 hours. I need space and quiet. I don't want anybody pressing on me or stressing me or asking me for anything. And I would say, that's easy. I can do that. If you'd like an extension for 6 hours, I can do that. I have plenty to do. I'll see you later. Number 4, ask for help. You can just sit down and ask God, help, help me. That's the most popular prayer in the world is help. Or you could go to a 12-step meeting or ask God for an energy download and for ideas how to get and keep your mood up and how to improve your interactions. We all need help on a continual basis. There's no shame in that. Number 5, hand-holding. Now, hand-holding can be very soothing for loved ones, lonely people, neighbors, the elderly, shut-ins. And you could also ask if you think it wouldn't be off-putting for another person, would you like me to hold your hand? Many times on airplanes, first-time flyers have sat beside me and asked, is this your first time flying? And I've said, oh no, I've flown hundreds of times. And they'll say, I'm really scared to death. And I'll say, what would make you feel more confident? And they say, would you hold my hand the whole trip? And I've said, of course, I'd be honored to hold your hand. Now then, chest time. This is one of our very regular and frequent things that we do. Now then, I might say to Jim, Jim, I'm feeling a little achy and nervous today. may I schedule 30 minutes of chess time with you sometime soon? And Jim will usually say, sure, I'm free now if that works for you. And a young child might say, Mommy, I need lap time. Mommy says, of course, honey, for a short time or a long time. Just a short time, short hug, just cuddly in your lap, that's all. Or a 13-year-old boy might say to his father, and I'm going to do a monologue now and be both John, the teenager, and Dad. Dad, I'm feeling overwhelmed with life. My girlfriend just broke up with me and I failed my math test. It wasn't fair. Can I have some shoulder time after dinner where I just rest my head on your shoulder sitting on the couch in the living room? Dad, John, I have a meeting after dinner, but I'm free right now for half an hour. Will that work for you? And if you still need more time to talk after my meeting, just let me know. So then, when Dad's son, John, sits beside Dad on the sofa, puts his head on Dad's shoulder, saying he's overwhelmed with life, Dad might say, it's normal these days to feel overwhelmed with life from time to time. You know, even your mother and I feel that way sometime. You do, Dad? Oh, yes. When I feel that way, there are several things I do. Like what? Well, I try to help somebody that's worse off than I am, or ask God for help, or just meditate, or go outside in nature, or pet the dog. Or I ask God for the energy to restore my positive outlook. Or I get help from a professional or a trusted friend who knows my patterns and knows that sometimes I get like this. Then I realize after it's all over, I was just addicted to misery. And then sometimes I meditate more or go outside for a walk or in nature, as I said. So there are different things I do. But do you feel like talking, John? Yeah, Dad. So I'm feeling overwhelmed with life. Well, really. And so what is it about life? Is there anything in addition to breaking up with your girlfriend or failing the math test? It's that I just feel in a bad mood. I feel down. I feel like those two things were a big bummer. So you didn't expect them and it just kind of pulled the rug out from your feet. That's it, Dad. That's it. And so, son, you know the questions I like to ask along the lines of self-inquiry. I ask myself, and sometimes I ask you, and sometimes you ask me. So, would you be willing to close your eyes and sink into the heart and notice if you drop your story, I'm overwhelmed with life, just for a moment? You can put it on the table. It'll be there if you want to pick it up and feel bad again. It'll always be there. But would you like to do that and just close your eyes and tell me what you discover inside without the story, just for a moment? Sure, Dad. Okay. Without my story, I feel free. Good. What else? I feel joyful. Oh, joyful. Anything else? I feel spacious. Good. Anything else? I feel love. I'm loved. God loves me. I'm love. I'm love myself. Oh! I feel so much love filling me up. I feel like King Kong of love. Okay, John. Just observe King Kong of love. What's he like? He's very powerful. I'm so loving. I'm King Kong of love. Really? Just watch him. What's he doing now? He's collapsing like an inflatable Santa Claus. It was just my ego. It was tapping into the power of love and feeling like I was powerful against something or over someone. That was just another story, wasn't it, Dad? That was another story, John. You know, the more we do inquiry, the more subtle the ego gets, and the more stories come along, and sometimes we can't even discover or discern that they're stories. All right, John, do you feel like you want to sing our song? Now, this is a song, as we conclude, that's a very, very special, subtle song about potential dynamics and relationships. Let's sing it together. Oh, it feels so good.
It hurts so bad. And to a victim, poor me, poor me.
'Cause you won't do
What I want you to. Poor me, poor me. I'm such a victim.
All right. Well, thank you for singing that. And now, don't ever sing that to somebody when they're steeped in their stuff and they really believe that they're dealing with a tragic situation, because when we're stuck in the ego, we think it's reality. That will enrage them and stay out of the way. They might take a lunge towards you. Only do it when they've worked it out and they realize I was stuck in one of my old stories and now everything is fine. I'm love, I'm spacious, I'm free, all is fine, I'm part of everything. All right. This concludes our program for today, and we covered many, many practical topics to help you have a deeper, more enjoyable, and successful relationship with everyone you know. In fact, this is about a year's worth of material, and if you put these things into action, you'll be a different person, and you will find that you have fabulous relations and a wonderful life. And you can also enjoy playing with the Irish crystal ball and the inhalation of natural beauty, observing your in-breath and out-breath, and the 9 vital qualities and skill sets for successful relationships. Enjoy using your new skills for soothing other people and yourself and dealing with feeling overwhelmed in life, which is normal when we tell ourselves that story, which is not true, but it feels really real. As with any new idea or skill, just hearing it isn't enough to make lasting change. It requires practicing with others, right? And it brings dividends to both of you. So you could watch this 4 or 5 times and you'll hear new and different things every time. Now then, we have one final thing that we'd just like to say, and that is thank you for letting us practice on you and for the wonderful reports that you write us regarding your insights, your shifts, and clearing of various issues as a result of the program material, and most of all, through God's grace and the aid of his helpers, the angelic host and the ascended masters, all of whom we heartily thank. God bless you all, and remember to help the suffering. They're all around us. Keep a song in your heart and keep your mood up. Sai Ram and Namaste until next time.